Good morning, everyone. I'd like to talk to you today about the symbology of a very special bird. Not the phoenix that's sitting here on its perch or the little dove, not specifically. Really more about the little yellow bird on my head. Although it's not just about him. He's a symbol for the symbol. So there's two birds involved, really. And if you count the little dove here, there's three. But a bird itself, any bird, represents an uplifting of spirit, hope, predestination perhaps, not in the sense of absoluteness, but in the ability to see the potential of a destiny that is before you if you choose to fly to it. It's getting that overview, moving up into the heavens and soaring around and looking down to see where and what is happening in your world and how you can see it from a different perspective, a more expanded, a more uplifting perspective. It all began for me with the bird that landed on Bernie Sanders' podium. So let's take a look at the short clip for a moment of this occurrence, as miraculous as it is.
That if he or she does their schoolwork seriously, does well, takes school. What? Now you see, this little bird doesn't know it. Oh my. I think there may be some symbolism here. I know it doesn't look like it, but that bird is really a dove asking us for world peace. No more wars.
Well, as you can imagine, the occurrence became viral. It's all over the place now, and the little bird has been adopted as the logo of Bernie Sanders. It was originally thought that the bird was a sparrow, but on closer examination of it, it seems that it is a finch, and it's actually a little yellow. In the video, it doesn't look that yellow, but in other pictures you can tell it's a yellow finch. Not quite as yellow as the little bird on my head, however. So this led to another revelation, which very much aligns to my feelings about supporting Bernie Sanders. It's not a political thing for me at all. I'm not a political person. I see my focus on in spiritual as well as physical support of Bernie becoming president, hopefully, as part of the whole ascension work that I do. It's the next stage. It's the next step in breaking free from the paradigm and opening up to an all is one scenario where heart ascension is the focus of our reality on this planet. Obviously, there's much more to come, but this is a stage that is very dramatic, very potent, and even if Bernie doesn't become president, It is opening a floodgate. So I'm going to read to you about Bernie Sanders and Houma. It's also pronounced Houma. When U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders was giving a speech in Moda Center in Portland, Oregon on March 25, 2016, a tiny bird jumped on his podium as he was speaking, eliciting cheers from the crowd and getting social media all aflutter. Author of Persophilia, Persian Culture on the Global Scene, Hamid Dabashi, professor of Iranian Studies and Comparative Literature at Columbia University, compared this bird to Houma, writing, "A bird lands on Bernie's podium while he is giving a speech in Portland, Oregon. The most adorable thing you ever saw, and more, you see, in old Persian legends, we have it that when a kingdom lacked a legitimate ruler, the wise people of the land flew a bird called Houma, and on whoever's shoulder the bird landed, he would be the king. Happily, we are now all beyond kings and such, but you might consider this little birdie as a messenger from all wise men and women of the ages around the world that this noble soul is the person to lead the nation. I am telling you." And so about the Houma or Houma bird, is said to never come to rest, living its entire life, flying invisibly high above the earth, and never alighting on the ground. In some legends it is said to have no legs. In several variations of the Houma myths, the bird is said to be phoenix-like, consuming itself in a fire every few hundred years, only to rise anew from the ashes. Well, I said it wasn't like the phoenix sitting there on the pedestal, but hey, it is. The Houma bird is said to have both the male and female natures in one body, each nature having one wing and one leg. Houma is considered to be compassionate and a bird of fortune, since its shadow or touch is said to be auspicious. Well, now that's interesting, because when Bernie Sanders was interviewed by, I believe, Barbara Walters, she asked what one word defines you and your philosophy and your focus in life. I'm paraphrasing her question, but that was the essence of it. And he said, compassion. In Sufi tradition, catching the Houma is beyond even the wildest imagination, but catching a glimpse of it, even a shadow of it, is sure to make one happy for the rest of his or her life. It is also believed that Houma can be caught alive, and the person killing a Houma would die in 40 days. In Ottoman poetry, the creature is often referred to as a bird of paradise, and early European descriptions of the Paradisaea species portrayed the bird as having no wings or legs, and the birds were assumed to stay aloft their entire lives. In Attar of Nishtapur's allegorical masterpiece, The Conference of the Birds, an eminent example of Sufi works in Persian literature, the Houma bird is portrayed as a pupil that refuses to undertake a journey because such an undertaking would compromise the privilege of bestowing kingship on those whom it flew over. In Iranian literature, this kingship bestowing function of the Houma bird is identified with pre-Islamic monarchs and stands vis-a-vis ravens, which is a metaphor for Arabs. The legend appears in non-Sufi art as well. The kingship bestowing function of the Houma bird reappears in Indian stories of the Mughal era, in which the shadow or the alighting of the Houma bird on a person's head or shoulder was said to bestow or foretell kingship. Accordingly, The feathers decorating the turbans of kings were said to be plumage of the Houma bird. Sufi teacher Ayyanat, I have a hard time with this name, sorry. Ayyanat Khan gives the bestowed kingship legend a spiritual dimension. Its true meaning is that when a person's thoughts so evolve that they break all limitation, then he becomes as a king. It is the limitation of language that can only describe the Most High as something like a king. Now that's very special, because really we're all seeking to attain that. When our thoughts so evolve that they break all limitation, then we become as kings, queens, goddesses, gods. It is a limitation of language that can only describe the Most High as something like a king. The Houma bird symbolizes unreachable highness in Turkish folk literature. Some references to the creature also appear in Sindhi literature, where, as in the Diwan tradition, the creature is portrayed as bringing great fortune. Now, I also find it interesting that it's often portrayed as a griffin-like creature, because it is the griffin that my inner planes mentor Thoth Hara states is actually a sort of a symbolic version of an actual morphic creature, or morphi. The morphi are, let me see, I'm going to read that to you here. In my article on the Sphinx, I write, the true guardian of Mazaroth is a morphi, high Davic nature being who functions as a generator and guardian for the dynamic powers of spirit in nature, which include the natural elementation of the human form. And so if we see the Houma bird as associated with the griffin, it imbues it with even more powers of bringing together forces in nature that are found symbolically in the animal species that we share the earth with. So coming back to Bernie and his little bird, you know, there are things in life that happen to all of us that are this miraculous, that are this portending and anointing. And sometimes we miss them and sometimes we don't. But when they're this dramatic, we usually catch it. But here we have this occurring in front of the world. And to me, it's not about Bernie so much, or some, goal of becoming president of the United States, even though I feel this is a very powerful spiritual potential. It's really more about showing humanity that Spirit is watching us. Spirit is here with us in everything we do. There's a higher power, call it God or whatever you wish to call it, that anoints us in life. Not because we're so very, very special, but because everything is special. Everything is important. Even the tiniest sparrow or little yellow finch, whatever it may be. And when we see things like this, whoops, that's not what I intended to do. I was trying to do something else. Let's see if I can find it here. We tend to be lifted up. And there are certain people on the planet, they come among us, and they are not necessarily ascended masters or angels. Those walk among us as well, but really just people that are part of our collective whole, who have the insight, the awareness, and the willingness to point out to us things that we already know, but we haven't been willing to fully accept or step up to receive. And those are the magical moments. When somebody taps us on the shoulder, reaches their hand down to us, across to us and says, hey, listen, here it is. You know it, I know it. Let's work together to achieve it.
It's all over this country. You got a lot of bright, decent, good people. They're saying, you know what? The situation is hopeless. You can't beat the Koch brothers. You can't beat the billionaires. You can't win. I'm giving up. That is exactly what they want us to believe. And I beg of you, do not enter that world of despair.
And so what does this all really mean to us? I mean, we're living in such a dramatic time on the planet that many signs and symbols, things that are trying to speak to us, get lost in the chaos, in the violence, in the wars, in the deceit, and the lies. It piles on top of us, and we do feel like we're giving in to a world of despair. But the little birdie's telling us no. And the little birdie that landed on Bernie's podium, the birds in our life that fly around and give us wonderful bird song like you're hearing today. Nature, all of the animals on the planet that are suffering along with us due to our carelessness, our greed. And yet, you know, there's such a beauty here, such a depth of beauty that continues no matter what we do. It's indeed a blessing, a grace factor that we're being given, that we must be grateful for every day. And the more we focus on the things we are grateful for, the more we are able to look at the things that we don't want in our life and love them into wholeness. Not with fluffy little puffy clouds and things, but with action. Action from the heart, not from anger, not from desperation, but from compassion, from love, and knowing, believing that everything has a divine spark and a being in it that deserves to be uplifted into the light, rather than smashed and destroyed.
When we talked to you in New Hampshire, we talked about religion.
Yep.
You said your spirituality is that we are all in this together.
Yep.
Explain to people what in your head and in your heart motivates that togetherness. Is there a higher power? Is there a higher intelligence? What do you believe in?
This is what I believe. Every great religion in the world, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, essentially comes down to do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. And what I have believed in my whole life, I believed it when I was a 22-year-old kid getting arrested in Chicago fighting segregation. I believed it in my whole life, that we are in this together, not words. The truth is, at some level, when you hurt, when your children hurt, I hurt. I hurt. And when my kids hurt, you hurt. And it's very easy to turn our backs on kids who are hungry or veterans who are sleeping out on the street. And we can develop a psyche, a psychology which says, I don't have to worry about them. All I'm going to worry about myself. I need to make another $5 billion. But I believe that what human nature is about is that everybody in this room impacts everybody else in all kinds of ways that we can't even understand. It's beyond intellect. It's a spiritual, emotional thing. So I believe that when we do the right thing, when we try to treat people with respect and dignity, when we say that that child who is hungry is my child, I think we are more human when we do that than when we say, hey, this whole world is me. I need more and more. I don't care about anybody else. That's my religion. That's what I believe in. And I think, most people around the world, whatever their religion, their color, share that belief that we are in it together as human beings. And it becomes more and more practical. If we destroy the planet because we don't deal with climate change, trust me, we are all in it together. All right? So we have got to work together And that is what my spirituality is about.
Indeed, we are all in this together. And it's time, it's really time for us to grow up and, leave our toys behind and become adults in this world. And that doesn't mean we can't still play and have fun. But when I talk about toys, I mean aspects of our nature that we've just been dabbling with. We need to develop the beautiful parts of our soul and let go of the things that our fear have clung to for so many eons in time. And I say us, I'm talking about the global we. Some of us have that mastered a little bit more than others, but all of us could improve it for sure. And I speak for myself as well. But little birds are also about having fun and being in the moment. But they never forget that they are creatures of light, of freedom, of beauty. And as such, we owe it to ourselves and to our future generations to really walk our talk completely in that vein. Those of us who call ourselves light workers, we can't be perfect. I know. I say we can't be. That's a limitation. I shouldn't say that. But let's not expect ourselves to be perfect overnight. But at the same time, we're living in a reality that is shifting so dramatically. We can be our future selves, and our future selves are perfect. And so I conclude this discourse with the following.